Part 24. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 231. Feeling the sticky feeling on her back, she looked at Lin Zian, who turned his body around. I refuse. Lin Zian ruthlessly crushed her fantasy. You are really amazing to spend money here with your family's money. After saying that, Lin Zian pushed the door and walked out of the car. Shui Yejiamei watched Lin Zian's figure gradually go away, but she didn't feel angry. Instead, she felt a very strange but familiar feeling. Heizuchizuru watched Lin Zian go away before she dared to open the door and re-enter the car, but the fear in her eyes did not decrease at all. Lin Zian gave her some bad memories, causing her to be forced to take an unknown road now. Miss. Let's go now. Go back home. Shui Yejiamei regained that aloof feeling. She was not very polite to her father's secretary, and even had a little disgust. However, when she found her father to ask for someone, her father directly asked her to come over, which showed her status in his eyes. Something went wrong today. Reina refused to accept her apology and refused to participate in club activities after school. She insisted on going home by herself. Fortunately, she got on the car after her brother's persuasion. She had also made an appointment with her brother and could not leave. She could only let Matsushita Haru take Reina home first, and she would find someone else to come. So she called Yukino Takemi one by one to arrange for Heizuchizuru to come. Of course, Yukino Takemi knew what kind of person Lin Zian was. Knowing that his daughter had made an appointment with him, he would almost certainly slip away, so he directly told Heizuchizuru to wait for him at the door. As for why Yukino Takemi deliberately created an opportunity for the two to meet, it was because he knew that Lin Zian would not deliberately let his daughter. So this meeting would definitely fall out, and his daughter's impression of him would definitely become worse, so this meeting not only did not bring the two closer, but made them more distant. Everything was as expected by Yukino Takemi. After getting rid of Yukino Jiamei, Lin Zian did not go to the river again, but went home directly. It was such a disappointment just now that he was no longer in the mood to go fishing. He didn't expect Yukino Jiamei to actually wait for him at the school gate. This is not right. When did she have this brain? Needless to say, it must be her father who is causing trouble, otherwise Chizuru Hajiki wouldn't appear there. He clearly told her not to let her contact him. Why didn't Yukino Takemi listen? He didn't want to speculate on the thoughts of such rich people, nor did he need to speculate. Lin Zian quietly opened the door, looked inside, and walked in after making sure that Reina was not there. He just told Reina that he had something to do. Isn't it obvious that he was lying to her when he came back now? After walking around the first floor, Lin Zian did not find Reina's figure, but her mother was sitting in the hall fiddling with her clothes. Aota-kun is back, Michiko stood up and shouted after seeing Lin Zian. Where's Reina? Didn't she come back first? Lin Zian subconsciously looked up at the stairs. Yes, Ms. Matsushita sent Reina back just now, but Reina seems to have sprained her foot and is now in the room upstairs. Speaking of this, Michiko was a little worried. Should she go to the hospital for a checkup? Reina is fine. I've seen her. She just twisted her foot. If you leave it alone, it will heal within 2 days. Don't worry. Lin Zian knew what she was thinking and explained casually. After all, Reina sprained her foot when she went out with him. It's good that she's fine. Michiko nodded. She didn't say anything when she came back, did she? Lin Zian asked tentatively. He thought Reina would definitely complain that he didn't pick her up. Michiko looked at Lin Zian in confusion. She didn't say anything after she came back, she just looked a little unhappy. Then I'll go see her. Hearing this, Lin Zian felt that he had to coax Reina, otherwise it would be more troublesome. Hamoda Michiko watched Lin Zian go upstairs, but the doubts in her heart were still puzzled. Qing Tianjun would not ask these questions in the past. What happened today? Reina, Reina. Lin Zion knocked on the door and called twice. Seeing no response, he opened the door directly. I'm coming in. Then he saw Reina lying on the bed, holding a doll. What's wrong? Are you uncomfortable? Lin Zion came to the bed, brushed her hair aside with his hands, and whispered softly, does your foot still hurt? Reina opened her lips slightly and made an incomprehensible sound, like a dream. Okay. I'll help you take a look. Lin Zion sat on the bed and held Reina's calf with his hand. He could feel that Reina trembled obviously just now. Then I'll start. Lin Zion laughed strangely, and his two hands touched Reina's feet. It's hard to say how superb Lin Zion's technique is, but Reina definitely can't stand it. At first she was still holding back, but after a while she couldn't help it and laughed out loud. No. Ha ha ha. Lingnei got up from the bed, hugged Lin Zion, and said, what are you doing, Ani-chan? Are you okay? Doesn't it hurt? Lin Zion didn't stop tickling Lingnei's feet. Ah! Stop tickling, I give up. Lingnei let go of Lin Zion, fell on the bed and tossed and turned, laughing. Lin Zion stopped when he saw that he had made progress, and let go of her feet. Just as he was about to slip away, Lingnei grabbed his clothes. What are you doing? Lin Zion looked at Oda Reina, who was angry and red-faced, and always felt that something bad was going to happen. Reina didn't care about that. She hugged Lin Zion directly and bit his neck. Unfortunately, Lin Zion's body was too much for her to bite. If Lin Zion hadn't deliberately relaxed his muscles and suppressed his body's counter-attack instinct, Reina might have lost her teeth. Ah! It hurts. Lin Zion pretended to be in pain, and Reina was scared and let go immediately. Ani-chan always bullies me. Reina looked at the teeth marks she had bitten, and suddenly felt a little guilty and said, I didn't bite so hard on purpose. Does it hurt? After saying that, Reina leaned over and licked the teeth marks she had just bitten. What are you doing? This scared Lin Zion so much that he held Reina's head with his backhand, and shook it lightly and threw Reina onto the bed. Then Lin Zion touched the teeth marks on his neck with his hand. These teeth marks were made by controlling his muscles to cater to Reina's teeth. They looked serious, but they would recover in a short time. Originally, he was just helping her to vent her anger. Why did it become like this? Reina saw Lin Zion touching his neck and frowned slightly. She thought that she had really hurt Lin Zion, so she quickly stretched out her hand, handed it to Lin Zion's mouth, and shouted with her eyes closed. Ani-chan, bite it back. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 232. What are you doing? Lin Zion slapped Lingnei's raised hand and smiled. What are you thinking about? Ani-chan is the best. Lingnei dragged Lin Zion's hand and swayed there. Are you calm? Lin Zion let her drag his hand. Humph. Who told Ani-chan not to pick me up? Lingnei, carrot. Speaking of this, Lingnei was unhappy. She originally wanted Lin Zion to carry her back, but he said he couldn't come because of something, so he pushed her to Yukinojime. Otherwise, she wouldn't be sulking as soon as she came back. I really have something to do. In order to get back, I turned down $1 billion business. Just be content, Lin Zion said in a flat tone. What? 10 billion, Lingnei was stunned. Countless ones and zeros rolled wildly in her mind. For a moment, she lost the concept of numbers. She didn't know the purchasing power of 1 billion, but it could definitely buy a lot of clothes, snacks, and dolls. Lingnei's hand holding Lin Zion began to tremble. Suddenly, she let go of her hand, knelt on the bed, grabbed Lin Zion's shoulder and asked, why did you turn it down, Ani-chan? That's 1 billion, enough for us to live for a lifetime. But Lin Zion didn't react much, just smiled and looked at her. When Lingnei saw Lin Zion's reaction, she suddenly had an idea and asked, are you serious, Ani-chan? Ha ha ha. Of course it's fake. Lin Ziyan laughed and complained, who would be stupid enough to use 1 billion to do business with a middle school student like me? You little money grubber, you must be blinded by money. Ah, Lingnei almost went crazy. Most people couldn't stand such ups and downs. Then Lingnei used little fist punch your chest to cause 0 damage to Lin Ziyan. Have you ever thought about what kind of work I need to do with this 1 billion? Lin Ziyan let Lingnei hit him, and when she stopped, he suddenly asked seriously. Why are you asking like that, Ani-chan? Reina panted, and the attack just now seemed to be useless. It's okay, I just asked out of curiosity. Lin Ziyan didn't dwell on this question, but chatted with Reina about other things. When Reina talked about school, he found something interesting. Yukino Giame was served with Chinese food at noon today. And it was the sweet and sour spare ribs that Reina said she liked the most yesterday. So careful, how much does she want, Reina? I can tell at a glance that dish is not as good as Ani-chan's, and those sauces are not right. Reina said a lot of things, but found that Lin Ziyan didn't listen to her at all, but was in a daze. Ani-chan. Ah. I'm listening. Lin Ziyan smiled awkwardly. Lin Ziyan walked out of Reina's room. He finally coaxed her and he was now relaxed. After thinking for a while, he found that he had nothing to do, so he had to wander to the study. He still had a few episodes to watch. One is to kill time, and the other is to know what people like nowadays, so that when they start to act, they can prescribe the right medicine. Otherwise, when he first started writing Xiangxia, someone died after a few chapters, who could bear it? After he turned on the computer, he habitually logged into the chat software. Unexpectedly, a series of messages, directly 99 plus. Lin Ziyan clicked it with curiosity. Now the group has calmed down, but as Lin Ziyan flipped through the chat records, he could imagine the intensity of the battle last night. You know, it took him almost 10 minutes to finish reading it at his speed, so you can imagine how many there were. Specifically, the anchor actually talked about that incident during the live broadcast, and also pushed the responsibility to him and the management, deliberately inducing fans to go to his comment area to make trouble. And these words were recorded by a few good people in the group and posted to the group, which exploded. Originally, those group members did not make trouble under his restraint, but he just wanted to die, and Lin Ziyan was not there at the time. After the news spread in several groups, there were about 1,000 group members who confronted him directly. He was a broadcaster with only a few thousand fans, so he had 1,000 real fans, and most of them were just spectators. As expected, his live broadcast room was occupied soon, and then someone went to other people to attract traffic, and soon people came to his live broadcast room. The powerful ones were still to come. At first, he let those group members go, and when there were more people, he immediately cleared them out and left the spectators. Then he said those things again. Of course, this was his version. Such deliberateness was definitely not something that a little kid like him could think of. There must be a pusher behind it. The masses are blind. Driven by some intentional passers-by, a large number of people poured into his comment area and quarreled with his book friends. Those who make trouble always want to make trouble, and kicking someone when he is down is their favorite thing to do. Lin Ziyan looked at the comment area again. Fortunately, the thing he was most worried about did not happen. They were all explaining, and no one started scolding. Group friends, your group leader is back. As soon as Lin Ziyan spoke, the group came alive again. I'm going to revive the dead. Group leader, go and have a look, the idiot is back to make trouble. It's really disgusting. Lin Ziyan explained to them that there might be a pusher behind the scenes, and asked everyone not to curse. And we are on the right side, with a lot of evidence, and we are not afraid of those water army at all. This matter is not serious, but it is the first time that Lin Ziyan feels the feeling of being besieged by the water army. The last time, only a few people came to the comment area to make trouble. They were not Water Army at all, but brainless fans at most. Now they are still being blamed. But this time, he was obviously well prepared. There were many people who came, and they all said similar things, making the comment area full of smoke and miasma. When Lin Zion was thinking about how to do it, someone's words caught his attention. "Group leader, can I post this online?" Lin Zion thought about it and replied, "Yes, as long as the content is true." As soon as Lin Zion said this, it immediately caused a huge response. "Group leader, I want it too. I have millions of fans. Sorry, I am also a host. I am from the largest homosexual, sensitive word, dating website in the country. I can also water a video. He must have a promoter behind him, everyone be careful." Lin Zion also agreed directly, and uploaded all the evidence to the group file for them to take. "Lin Zion, you can use it, but don't maliciously distort the facts and don't fall into the other party's trap. Understood? We are all civilized people, of course we use civilized methods, otherwise we will curse like him. So there are so many big guys in the group, it seems that I am the only newbie. I am the newbie, you must be a big guy who has been in the group for 2 years and has not been kicked out. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 233. Lin Zion waited for a while, and the group soon quieted down. He also opened the friend list, found a person with the note Li Qian, and sent a message. "Where are you hanging out recently?" Lin Zion didn't wait for a while, and a sentence popped up on the chat screen. "Is brother an okay? Where are you now?" Lin Zion knew what he meant as soon as he saw the sentence. This person is a rich second generation in China, and his ancestors have talented people. Even if the old man has passed away, the influence is still there, and he is considered a figure there. This person can't do anything, he just spends money and drinks, but he is very good at being a person, and he has made a good impression among a bunch of bad friends. He is also a not so simple person in this circle, and generally everyone will give him face. And Lin Zion met him because one of his friends caused trouble and offended him, and he came to mediate, and they got together by accident. Even Lin Zion had to say that he was sensible and knew how to behave. And what he said was to ask if he was in China. He had a bad background and had been warned by Lin Zion several times before. He was really related to his expulsion this time. So this guy was afraid of going back. "What are you afraid of?" "I'm not in China now." "No, brother and is joking. I mean I'll welcome you back when you come back." "Okay, you're almost 30 years old, don't call me brother. That won't do. How can you mess up seniority? What does brother and want from me?" "I want you to help me find an anchor. Brother and likes that one. I'll send it to you right away. Get lost. I know a friend who writes novels." Lin Zion didn't hide anything and told him about it. "I went to him because I had something to do, and this guy still owed me a lot." In a luxurious private room of a domestic club, several young people sat together, and there were girls serving wine around them. Li Qian, who was just drinking, suddenly held his mobile phone with a serious expression, ignoring the people next to him. And the girl serving wine couldn't just stand there to please him, so she climbed up Li Qian's arm and rubbed it gently. "What's wrong with brother Qian today?" Who knew that Li Qian, who originally liked this, suddenly became a different person, pulled his hand away from her chest, looked up and said, "You guys go out first, we have something to talk about." The people who were having fun next to him looked at Li Qian's serious look and joked, "Did your old man ask you to go back?" "Huh. Look who's looking for me." Li Qian shook his mobile phone at the face of the young man next to him, and then that person became like Li Qian and said to the women, "You guys go out first, we have something to do." Huh? What? Get out. This person was obviously much more irritable than Li Qian, and he started to spray as soon as he disagreed. Seeing this situation, several people nearby also waved their hands to let the ignorant people go out. Just now, Li Qian's reaction alone could be laughed at, but the other one also did this, which explained the problem. To be able to get into a circle, none of the people present are fools. Okay, don't talk about this, what does it have to do with them? Li Qian patted the man's thigh, then waved his hand to signal them to leave. I will talk to the manager, the fee will be the same, you go first. Thank you, Brother Qian. After saying this, several people left. Because this place is not their home court, and the person who brought them here has left, so those women are ignorant. To be more specific, if they leave midway, they will be deducted according to the charging standards. Who doesn't come here for money? So they were allowed to leave after Li Qian said this. After the women left, Li Qian and others gathered together. What happened? You can see for yourself. Li Qian put his mobile phone directly on the table and lay down on the sofa. After a while, several people also lay down like Li Qian and asked, what should we do now? Who will check the little anchor? Did you see it? He didn't ask us to find the anchor, but to find the person behind him. Li Qian knew that Lin Xian was not looking for the little anchor, but something deeper. Really, what does it have to do with us if he likes to read novels? He actually found you for such a small matter, one of the young men said, unconvinced. What does a broken novel writer have to do with him? Yes. He is still involved in domestic affairs when he is out there. Who do you think he is? After one person started, several others also complained, and it almost became a criticism meeting of Lin Xian. They almost tied Lin Xian up. Don't say it, you know about the great god's affairs, and now we have to do this thing beautifully, otherwise everyone knows what the consequences will be when he comes back, Li Qian said with a curled lip. These people seem to look down on that person, and they can only vent their anger here. If they really meet, they will be scared to death. Of course, although Li Qian looks down on these people, there are some things that cannot be said. I will go and ask someone first. Some things can be said here. You know it yourself. Li Qian no longer wants to care about these people. Now he has to go to work. And, Li Qian seemed to have remembered something and said seriously, some people shouldn't know his news. Do you understand? Understood, we are not stupid, and we will not make ourselves uncomfortable. Don't worry, I will help you ask about this matter. Yes, I'll go find someone to ask. It seems that Dogtooth belongs to the Qin family. Which of you knows second young master Qin? Tell him he's causing trouble. Ha! If you offend this designation, there will be no good consequences. After a few phone calls, the entire circle knew that Lin Xian was alive again, and people were panicked for a while. Soon Li Qian sent the information he wanted to obtain to Lin Xian, and then waited for his reply. There was a lot of excitement there, and Lin Xian was playing small games very leisurely. I distractedly read the information sent by Li Qian, and then sent a random sentence. You go find someone to deal with it and forget about the past. Then Lin Xian continued the game, not caring about Li Qian on the other side. And Li Qian, who received the message from Lin Xian, was really one of the top two. What is this? Not clear. How should I deal with it? There is indeed a management company behind that anchor, but it is actually a small labor union. It brings together several small anchors but cannot get on the stage. That's why Lin Xian asked Li Qian to handle it instead of finding someone else. He still has this ability, and he should not let down his trust in him. Of course, Lin Xian was fine now and went to bed early, hoping to hear good news tomorrow. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 234. Lin Zion woke up early in the morning. What happened yesterday really disgusted him. It was such an unreasonable disaster. He offended a host for no reason and was exposed. This kind of hot-tempered cancer should be dealt with, so as not to cause trouble again. Thinking of that person's information, Lin Zion discovered that his family was really rich. His parents were both high-level executives of private companies, but his son was a bit stupid. It's not good to offend anyone, but this dandy boy like him. Before Lin Zion could think about it, there was a knock on the door. Lin Zion took a look at his phone and found that it was not 6:30 yet. Why did he come over to wake him up? What do you want to do? Lin Zion opened the door and saw Lingna in pajamas. At this moment, he felt that things were not that simple. Then Raina slipped under the door and ran onto his bed. Huh? Lin Zion asked, what does this mean? It was just revealed yesterday that she was sleeping in his own bed, and now he doesn't even try to cover it up, but just bullies her? What are you doing? Lin Zion walked back to the bed and asked, looking at the big bulge under the quilt. Sleep, a dull voice came from the bed. Don't come here. If you want to sleep, go back to your room. This is my room. Lin Zion pulled the quilt and found that Lene was also tugging on it. I don't want it. Raina's head suddenly stuck out from the bed. You sleep here and I sleep where? Stop playing and get up quickly, Lin Zion said with a helpless smile. It seems that this child's brain is really not working well. Ani-chan can also sleep here. I'm very small, so I just need a small place to sleep. Raina fluttered on the bed a few times and fanned out a warm breeze. Get up quickly, or I'll ask your mother to come up and tell you that you won't let me sleep. Lin Zion obviously didn't want to accept her advice and moved Michiko out directly. No need. Raina immediately turned into a bitter face after hearing his words. If Michiko came up and saw her like this, she would definitely be criticized. I think you have too little homework. There will be an exam in a few days. Are you really sure? Don't slap me in the face in front of your friends then. Lin Zion raised this question and directly gave Raina a fatal blow, and for a while the room was filled with grief. You got up so early today. Michiko Oda watched the two people go downstairs, while Rina looked gloomy. Lingnae said that she should get up early to study in the future and strive to get good grades in the monthly exam. You should supervise her more in the future. Lin Zion expressed sympathy for Lingnae's experience, but did not stop the persecution, but intensified the intensity. I'll go to the bookstore after school to find some exercise books and come back to do them for her. Mom, Ani-chan bullied me. Raina ran to her mother to complain. You deserve it. Michiko tapped Raina's forehead lightly. Don't think I don't know that you disturb Aota-kun from his rest all day long. The three of them were having breakfast, and suddenly Rina asked, when will Ani-chan go to work? Lin Zion looked at Lene and smiled and said, you really want me to go to work? No. It's just. Raina smiled on the side, and then Michiko said. It's not your turn to think about this yet, you just need to study hard now. Hey. By the way, Lin Zion thought of the land next to him and reminded the two of them, there may be people coming over for construction in the past few days, so you don't need to worry about them. Construction? Michiko was stunned for a moment and asked, Aota-kun, are you going to demolish that place? Yes, I'm going to demolish that house and open up both sides. Do you have any opinions? No. No. Michiko suddenly lowered her head and ate her breakfast. Lin Zion didn't care about her reaction and continued to fix breakfast. Lin Zion was walking on the road with Lene. Her foot was fine. It was just slightly twisted but no bones were injured. It might be because of what happened just now. Raina looked worried, but she didn't know who she was worried about. Why did Oni-chan dismantle the side? Raina finally couldn't help but ask. Tear it down if you want. There is no reason. Lin Zion didn't understand. Why keep that dilapidated house? Raina responded weakly. I have to go to work after school. You and your friends can go to the club to play. Then let her take you home. Lin Zian had already taken the lead and passed the blame to Yukino Kame. He didn't catch any fish yesterday, so he should be able to do it today. After spending the day as usual, Lin Zian slowly walked out of the school after everyone else left. This time he walked towards the river, a road that was not crowded. Returning to that position, Lin Zian lay down. There had been nothing good in the past few days, just messy things. He needed to be quiet now. To be honest, the environment here is quite good, but the river always has a smell. Although it is not very obvious, it is quite unpleasant. But at least the grass here is quite comfortable and soft enough. Lin Zian waited for a while, but still no fish took the bait, but this is normal. When fishing, he pays attention to those who are willing to take the bait and not in a hurry. Lin Zian didn't know how long he had been waiting, but he seemed to have fallen asleep. It wasn't until he felt a sight that he woke up fully. When he opened his eyes, he saw Otoha Sakai doing sit-ups next to him. "Are you going to let me sleep?" Lin Zian glanced at her and continued to close his eyes. "You're awake." Sakai Otoi immediately stood up and crawled over when he heard Lin Zian's voice. "What are you doing? Who are you putting on a show for?" Lin Zian didn't even open his eyes, and spoke in a daze, as if he hadn't woken up yet. "I was wrong, don't do this." Sakai Otoha pinched Lin Zian's shoulders with both hands and shook them vigorously. "Stop, stop, stop. If you shake it again, it will fall apart." Lin Zian raised his hands to break away from Sakai Otoha, looked at her and asked, "What do you want to do? Come back to accompany me, you won't be tired from training after you don't beat me." Sakai Otoha licked her face and said to him with a smile. "No, waste my time, you are comfortable, have you ever considered me?" Lin Zian changed his place and lay down again. "Don't, I'll give you money." "No, I'm not short of money, and please go away if you have nothing to do, don't block me. I really know I was wrong, and I will never cheat again in the future." "Just cheating." Lin Zian suddenly sat up and looked at her, and the sneer on his face made Sakai Otoha panic. "It should be, just." Sakai Otoha didn't know what she was saying, and finally admitted to being lazy under Lin Zian's pressure. "I'm just taking a break." Sakai Otoha raised her hand to indicate, fingertip universe. "Hee," Lin Zian sneered, "then why should I help you?" Sakai Otoha certainly didn't know that when Lin Zian hit her, he could infer her daily exercise by feeling the changes in her muscles. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 235. The reason why Lin Zian ignored her in the first few times was that he couldn't push her too hard at the beginning of the training. The intensity of training needs to be gradual, thinking that she would consciously increase it after adapting, but she disappointed Lin Zian. If she didn't mess around, the effect might be better. "Don't, I'll correct it, and I will definitely follow your requirements in the future." Sakai Yunyi squatted beside Lin Zian and begged. "Well, I'll give you 3 days. If you can lose 5 pounds, I'll help you. If not, don't come to me, go find your boyfriend." 5 pounds is so much, how about 3 pounds? Sakai Yunyi was a little hesitant. Before, it was Lin Zian who managed her data, and she herself didn't know if she had the ability to lose 5 pounds in 3 days. "Do you think you are selling pork?" Still bargaining, Lin Zian yelled at her directly, "Get out now, you have to remember that you failed me and wasted my hard work. If you don't succeed, don't come to me." Lin Zian is now putting pressure on her. To be honest, losing 5 pounds in 3 days is not an impossible task. It is very simple according to his plan, but it must be a bit hard. If she couldn't even complete this small task, Lin Zian would have to resort to extraordinary means. She would definitely not be able to escape anyway, and the result was that it was already decided when she and Lin Zian made the agreement. Sakai Otoha looked at Lin Zion, who was lying back down, knowing that he was serious this time. She remembered that Lin Zion came to help her design the training, and came to supervise her every day, and then helped her press her muscles after the training, beat her. She didn't feel uncomfortable after the training before, but felt a sense of relief. But after Lin Zion ran away, she tried the training intensity for 2 days by herself, and her muscles were sore, especially her thighs, and she couldn't even walk straight. You have to know that this was after adapting for so many days, so you can imagine Lin Zion's good intentions in arranging to beat her at the end. And she was lazy and cheated, and there were still results in these days, and was Lin Zion's efforts really only exchanged for these? It seems that she really failed him. Thinking of this, Sakai Otoha also gave up persuading Lin Zion, and could only secretly make up her mind to impress him with reality. It's just 5 pounds in 3 days, I'm sure I can do it. Lin Zion waited for Sakai Otoha to leave before opening his eyes and getting up to go home. Now the fish has been hooked, and there is no point in staying any longer. The result will be clear after 3 days. When Lin Zion returned home, Reina had not come back yet, and only Michiko was fiddling with the clothes in the living room, so he went upstairs decisively, lest Reina came back later and questioned why he came back so early today instead of picking her up. He actually had another job to do, which was to come up with a design for the garage and studio next door. The reason why the construction next door had not started was because of this, otherwise with Takaishi Shuichiro's efficiency, the construction next door would have started long ago. But the problem came again, he wanted too many things, which led to too high requirements for the studio, and the space needed was a bit large. Lin Zion was now thinking about whether to give up some functions, but that would be meaningless, it would be better to just have a garage. When he was hesitating, the computer prompt sounded, and he opened the chat window between him and Li Qian, and a piece of news popped up. The internet celebrity promoter was arrested, the dark side under the splendor. Lin Zion took a quick look, he was no longer interested in this matter, the result had been booked when he found Li Qian. Is brother in here? Are you satisfied with this matter? After reading Li Qian's news in the early morning yesterday, Lin Zion felt that this kid was doing it on purpose, because the news had already said that it was handled around 10 o'clock. This was just a small matter, and he didn't need to drag it until this time. He probably wanted to give Lin Zion the illusion that he was very hard by sending him a message in the early morning. But forget it, at least he got this matter done, even if he passed. But before Lin Zion let go of this matter, he learned from Lu Quanqing that Li Qian had made a big deal about it. Lin Zion was a little bit amused and cried for a while. He found Li Qian because he had some strength and could solve this matter. More importantly, he helped him take the blame and reduce his sense of existence. I thought this kid could understand what he said. I didn't expect it. Lin Zion was used to the feeling that the other party understood the conversation with Shui Wuhai without putting it on the surface. It was just that I overestimated Li Qian, the young man. Lin Zion did not blame him. After all, he was the one who found him and did not explain it. It was not his fault. But I still had to warn him not to let him use his name to make trouble. After all the operations, Li Qian was scared. He actually misunderstood the meaning of the great god. After receiving Lin Zion's message, Li Qian felt that he had gone to the Yama Palace. He made all kinds of excuses and asked to make amends, but Lin Zion refused. In this case, letting him take the blame would only make things worse. This kind of small news will fade away in a few days. There is no need to muddy the water and don't put himself in it. To be honest, did Li Qian really not know what Lin Zion meant? At that time, after receiving Lin Zion's message, Li Qian showed his mobile phone to those people with a bit of a show-off mentality, showing off his connections. What it means is, see, this person has something to ask me, now he knows my background. But he didn't expect that this would turn out badly. Now he couldn't think that Lin Zion would write off the past. He should be thankful that he didn't do it now. Thinking of this, Li Qian immediately found the few people who were with him that day and told them that he was in trouble and to keep their mouths shut. If he hadn't persuaded the great god, no one would have had a good ending. Originally, it was Li Qian who got into trouble and dragged those people into the water, but now it was Li Qian who saved them, and those people had to be grateful to Li Qian. It has to be said that Li Qian is still a little smart, because he knew that those people would definitely not dare to go to Lin Zion to verify his words, and they couldn't hide. However, Li Qian was ready to go all out and sacrifice the anchor to the heaven to get Lin Zion's forgiveness, but this time he took the blame alone. This was a hand to prevent Lin Zion from coming back to settle accounts with him, hoping to impress him. Li Qian could only pin his hopes on these illusory things. So the anchor was left cold in Lin Zion's casual words. A few days later, the anchor found that the person behind him was gone, and his parents were also in trouble because of some issues. Only then did he realize that he had gotten into trouble, and since his live broadcast room had been blocked, he could only swallow the bitter fruit. Such trivial matters will soon calm down in this circle. After all, the melon is gone after it is eaten, and fresh melon is still delicious. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 236. Lin Zion overturned the design draft several times on the computer, but none of them satisfied him. So annoying. Lin Zion threw down the mouse. The place was still too small. The functions were reduced step by step, and only 3 functions were left in the finished design. One was the main function garage, and the other was the utility room, and the other was the kitchen. Lin Zion still couldn't escape eating, so he cancelled the original functions such as carpentry, porcelain, and ironwork, leaving only the kitchen function. This kitchen is different from ordinary kitchens. It is specially prepared for some special dishes. Many things in it need to be customized, but with the ability of the Gao Shi family, it can definitely be solved. He sent the drawings to Gao Shi Shuacairo, and then he went back downstairs because he felt the movement from the basement, but it was very weak. Lin Zion hasn't stayed in the basement for a long time. He only comes to check every night. And Xiaobai's condition is getting worse and worse. Now he is almost skin and bones. After so many days of fusion, he is finally waking up. Lin Zion picked up Xiaobai with great expectation. It hadn't woken up yet, but Lin Zion could feel the power in its body surging and impacting the seal he had set. It was also because of the seal that Lin Zion could feel Xiaobai's movement. "Master, is Xiaobai about to wake up?" Qingxun asked cautiously. She had been guarding Xiaobai here for so long because of Lin Zion's order, and now she could finally leave the basement. "Yes, get ready to wake up." Lin Zion seemed to be in a good mood. If Xiaobai succeeded, it would prove that his idea was right. Who knows how much he paid for transplanting the methods of another world to this world. Lin Zion carefully removed the seal in Xiaobai's body slowly, and Xiaobai also benefited from the feedback of this power. Lin Zion felt the power in Xiaobai's body and guided it to the whole body. Xiaobai didn't want Qingxun. It had a body, so he couldn't let it do it by itself. Like the last rampage, it was probably caused by Xiaobai's own mess. This time, with him here, there would be no big problem. After Lin Zion lifted the seal, Xiaobai began to emit black flames again. The flames seemed to spread towards Lin Zion's hands, but were blocked by a thin layer of golden light. Lin Zion observed confidently and found that it was not black, but red, but the red was too dark, so it looked like black. Qingxun watched from the side. This time she did not speak, because she knew that Lin Zion did not need her. Lin Zion removed his hands, and Xiaobai naturally floated into the air. A circular light film wrapped Xiaobai and the surging black flames. On the light ball. Heh, now it has become a pill. Lin Xian suddenly remembered the days of refining pills. It was boring and very mentally challenging. You couldn't relax for a moment, even a cultivator couldn't stand it. Also, because of the long-term contact with those strange fires during that period, his hair and beard were gone, and it took a long time for them to grow back. It's really a bit funny to think about it now. Lin Xian broke away from his memories and set his eyes on the light ball. Mom, is Uni-chan back? Reina hurriedly found Michiko and asked as soon as she came back. She just saw Lin Xian's shoes in the shoe cabinet. You know, Lin Xian only has one pair of shoes, which means he is back. Aota-kun is in the basement. What's wrong? Michiko put down the things in her hands. Reina seemed to be deflated. If it was not necessary, she would not dare to go to the basement to disturb Lin Xian. She knew that Lin Xian hated others disturbing him when he was working. She had made the same mistake once last time, and she learned to be smart this time. Reina took out her homework from her school bag and started doing it in the living room, preparing for the monthly exam. Although she told Lin Xian and Michiko that it was okay, the pressure did not decrease by half, but increased instead. It's just that she is confident that she can get a good grade because she is no longer alone. But the homework and exercises that should be done must not be less. Lin Xian carried Xiaobai out of the basement. Xiaobai, who had not seen the sun for a long time, squinted his eyes and lay lazily in Lin Xian's arms. Failed. There were still problems during the fusion process. Before it was completed, Lin Xian found that Xiaobai's consciousness began to blur. You know, even when Xiaobai was rampaging, its consciousness was still intact, it was just sleeping. But this time, the consciousness was worn out. Once the consciousness dissipated, Xiaobai would be dead, and only a body would be left. Just like a human vegetative person. There was no other way, so Lin Xian had to seal it again and save Xiaobai. But this time he did not let Xiaobai merge again, but woke it up directly, because Xiaobai's body could no longer hold on. Ah! Is Xiaobai awake? Reina had been paying attention to the door of the basement. She knew it as soon as Lin Xian came out. When she saw Lin Xian holding Xiaobai, she remembered Xiaobai's existence. A cat who can sleep on Oni-chan's bed without restraint. Xiaobai is awake. Michiko was sitting right opposite Reina, so after hearing Reina's words, she quickly got up and turned around to see Lin Xian and Xiaobai in his arms. Reina could forget Xiaobai, but Michiko couldn't. She was frightened by Xiaobai's incident at that time, and she couldn't forget him, but she didn't dare to go down to the basement to take a look. Every time she asked about Lin Xian, he just brushed it off, causing her to think that Xiaobai was dead and was disposed of by him. He said that just to avoid guilt for himself and Reina. But now it seems that I thought too much. Michiko looked at Xiaobai and hurried over to ask, do you want to prepare food? See if there is any milk powder left in that can. If there is, go and make some. Lin Xian was a little surprised why Michiko was so excited. Xiaobai just woke up. Didn't he say it a long time ago? No more, I drank it all, Lingnei said after reacting. The can of milk powder left by Xiaobai was stuffed into her by Lin Xian on the grounds of eat more to grow up, and she had eaten it all. What should I do? Michiko looked at Xiaobai's skinny appearance and said anxiously, or I'll go out and buy it now. Michiko wanted to go out after she said that. Wait, come back first. Lin Xian didn't understand. Why were the two of them so excited when Xiaobai woke up? Don't we have milk at home? Just go get a bottle. Lin Xian looked at Michiko and added. But, cats can't drink milk, right? Michiko became hesitant. Even she, who has never raised a cat, knew this. Seeing Michiko's doubts, Lin Xian explained, you mean cats are lactose intolerant after drinking milk, but Xiaobai is not one of those spoiled cats, so there is no such problem. Happy Mid-Autumn Festival! My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 237. Lin Ziyan certainly knew the problem Michiko was talking about, but this was not a problem for Xiaobai, who had already mutated once. Moreover, Xiaobai had drunk milk before when Oda and her daughter were not here, and there was no adverse reaction at that time. Yes. I'll get it now. Michiko left in a hurry, but Lin Ziyan was not in a hurry, sitting on the sofa with Xiaobai in his arms. Reina sat opposite Lin Ziyan and observed Xiaobai. She was also very curious about Xiaobai, but she had never touched this cat once. It would run away as soon as it approached, and it was useless to call its name. It would only look at you from a distance and ignore you. The whole family only wanted Uni-chan to touch it, and this cat's food and drink had to be specially prepared. I once tried to attract it with food, but it only ate the food prepared by Uni-chan and ignored what I prepared. Uni-chan was going out those days, and Reina even thought it would starve to death. Here it comes, I heated it up a little. Michiko's words interrupted Reina's thinking. She turned around and saw Michiko carefully coming over with the bowl that Xiaobai usually used, put it on the table, and then looked at Lin Ziyan. Well, not bad. Lin Ziyan put his finger into the milk and felt that it was only a little warmer than body temperature. Michiko really just heated it up slightly. Lin Ziyan put his finger in front of Xiaobai. Meow, Xiaobai called weakly, and then licked his finger. Okay, it seems that it hasn't fallen asleep yet. Lin Ziyan put Xiaobai in front of the bowl and watched it drink slowly. Michiko and Reina were also looking at Xiaobai, but the moods of the three were different. 3 days passed in a flash. Since Xiaobai woke up, it moved back to his room, and Reina was now trying to please Xiaobai, because Xiaobai occupied the bed when Lin Ziyan was not there. Lin Ziyan didn't care about the two of them playing tricks, let them play by themselves, anyway, it was enough to be annoying to him. And now he came to the river to wait for Sakai Otoha to come. This was the last chance he gave her. Whether she could grasp it depended on her. Not long after Lin Ziyan sat down, he felt someone coming, but her state was a little strange. Her face was haggard, but her eyes were very energetic, like a traveler who was short of water in the desert and saw water. His eyes were glowing green. What are you doing? How did it become like this? Why did Lin Ziyan feel that she was drunk? I succeeded, lost 5 pounds in 3 days. Really? Lin Ziyan looked at Sakai Otoha, and he could tell just by looking at her appearance, but it was definitely not so accurate. She did lose 5 pounds, even exceeding the standard he gave her. But there was something wrong with her mental state. Tell me how you lost weight these days. Lin Ziyan lay back and asked leisurely. Keep exercising and only eat vegetables and fruits. Sakai Otoha smiled very proudly. Are you crazy? Didn't I tell you that losing weight is not about overdrawing your body, but about adjusting yourself through reasonable and healthy methods? Lin Ziyan didn't expect her to be so cruel. In fact, it can be completed only by following the plan she set. Why must she do this? This is my punishment for myself. Come back and help me. Sakai Otoha pressed Lin Ziyan's shoulders with both hands and stuck him in place. I will definitely achieve my goal, and I will never let you down. Let's not talk about these first. I think you should go home and have a good rest now. Lin Ziyan was unmoved. Her state had already deviated from Lin Ziyan's expectations. Didn't you promise me? Are you lying to me? Sakai Otoha saw that Lin Ziyan didn't agree, and exerted force with both arms. Lin Ziyan felt that she was exerting force. Ordinary people couldn't bear this kind of force. When he looked at her again, his eyes were red. In other words, she was possessed by a demon. You are very tired, go to sleep. Lin Ziyan suddenly changed his tone, and Sakai Otoha let go of his hands and fell to the ground after a few words. Is there something wrong with this person's brain? Did she break it through training? Shiu kicked over to help her turn over and let her lie on the grass. Ah, it hurt so much. Sakai Otoha felt pain all over her body and her head was dizzy in a daze. Her hands moved unconsciously, and suddenly she felt a pricking sensation, and then a rustling sound. Sakai Otoha tried to open her eyes. The strong sunlight made her instinctively cover her eyes with her hands. It took a long time for her to adapt. And her dizzy head got better a little. "Where is this?" Sakai Otoha whispered. "Awake." "Huh." Sakai Otoha suddenly heard a voice and struggled to get up. When she saw Linzian, she seemed to be relieved and fell on the grass. "Why am I here?" "You said you were tired and took a nap here." Linzian would definitely not admit that he had done something wrong. "Oh. Yes, I came to find you." Sakai Otoha patted her head. "Okay, go home when you wake up." Linzian stood up and patted the grass on his thighs. If it weren't for her, Linzian would have left long ago if he had stayed here for so long. "Hey! Don't leave yet, what did you promise me?" Sakai Otoha hurriedly followed Linzian when she saw him leaving. "Let's go, I promised you that I won't break the promise." Linzian waved his hand casually. "Really?" Sakai Otoha rushed over and stood next to Linzian. "Yes. But remember that you only have one chance." "Understood, definitely complete the mission," Sakai Otoha shouted. Fortunately there was no one around, otherwise they would definitely be watched. "Okay, don't talk nonsense. Then where are we going now?" "Where?" Linzian suddenly stopped and turned to look at her. "Of course we're going to your house." Mom." As soon as Reina entered the door, she threw down her shoes and ran in and asked, "Is Oni-chan back?" "Aota-kun just called back and said he has to work and won't be back until tonight." Michiko came out of the kitchen wearing an apron. When Linzian called back just now, she was already preparing cat food, and now she doesn't have to wait for him to come back and cook dinner directly. Oh, this time Reina didn't act as frustrated as last time, but a little excited. As long as Oni-chan wants to work, the bed in the morning is hers, and she can enjoy a half-hour nap. Thinking of this, Ota Reina's eyes narrowed into a line with a smile. "Go and call Ziobai down to eat, the fish has cooled down," Michiko reminded her when she saw Reina stunned in place. Ziobai," Reina suddenly remembered that there was another Ziobai. "Yes. Go quickly." Michiko just sent Reina away and returned to the kitchen. Reina walked upstairs helplessly. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 238. According to the usual practice, Ziobai usually stays in Linzian's room, so Lingnei went straight to his room as soon as she came up. "Ziobai, are you there?" Lingnei opened the door and called softly inside. But there was no response. Lingnei also knew that Ziobai would not pay attention to her, so she went straight into the room, and then looked at the bed. Ziobai was indeed on it, and was still asleep. "It has been sleeping for so long, Ziobai is not a pig." Lingnei walked over and looked at Ziobai and complained in a low voice. But this directly startled Ziobai, who looked up at Lingnei, then screamed, stood up and looked at him. But now Ziobai is skinny, so he doesn't look intimidating, but gives people a pitiful feeling. "It's time to eat." Lingnei didn't even dare to speak loudly, for fear of scaring it. "Meow woo." Ziobai looked at Lingnei, suddenly jumped off the bed, and walked towards the door. Reina watched Ziobai jump onto the door handle skillfully. She had seen this skill several times. But Ziobai's current weight made it impossible to open the door like before, so Ziobai hung on the door handle. "Ziobai, come down first, I'll open the door." Reina leaned over and said. "Meow." Ziobai let go and jumped down, then walked to the side and stood. "Oni-chan really didn't lie to me." Ziobai really can understand what people say. Reina's interest in Ziobai was raised to a higher level. She was very curious why Ziobai could understand what people say. Was it taught by Oni-chan or? "Meow." Ziobai called out, pulling her out of her fantasy. Seeing Ziobai looking at her, Reina hurried over to open the door, and then watched Xiaobai walk out with a cat step. She didn't care about anything else and hurried to follow. In the gym, Sakai Otoha was lying on the yoga mat, while Lin Xian was holding a small notebook and recording something. "Does it hurt here?" Lin Xian poked her thigh and asked. "It hurts." "What about here?" "It hurts too." "Why don't you just say that your whole body hurts?" "Wait a minute, you haven't hit me yet, maybe it won't hurt after that." "I know this better than you do, there's no hope, just wait to die." Lin Xian stood up and put the things in his hand aside. Sakai Otoha's condition is more serious than he thought, and it's not suitable for her to practice in the near future, otherwise it will cause damage to her body, which conflicts with his plan. He requires his works to be in perfect condition, and any flaws will make him very uncomfortable. "How about this, you take a day off and adjust yourself first, and I'll come to help you the day after tomorrow." "Why?" Sakai Otoha didn't understand Lin Xian's arrangement. She had worked so hard to ask him to come back, but he actually arranged it like this? "Heh. It's your body that needs a rest, not you." Lin Xian sneered. "You're not going to school anyway, so go learn makeup tomorrow." Lin Xian found that Sakai Otoha was already addicted to the feeling of beating her. After what happened to Reina, he wouldn't let it go. He thought he had overestimated these ordinary people. Lin Xian was sure that she would come to him probably for this reason. She couldn't bear that feeling. Lin Xian suddenly felt a little evil. It seemed that this project would be cancelled in the future. I guess her body had already gotten used to high-intensity exercise. Lin Xian didn't mention this issue again, but asked her to find makeup videos online to learn. Speaking of the makeup habits in Japan, it's really terrible. Let's not talk about those girls, even those ants have to put on makeup before going out to take out the garbage. From this, we can see why cosmetics are so popular here. "Ah. I still have to learn makeup." Sakai turned over and looked at Lin Xian while lying on her stomach. "Don't you even look at what you look like? Even if you lose weight and don't know how to put on makeup, how can he feel bad?" "Oh. Okay, let's contact if there's anything." Lin Xian looked at the time and it was almost time to go back, and he could have a meal by the way. In addition to makeup, he also had to change his clothes. He wore shorts and slippers every day, and a loose t-shirt with anime characters printed on it. Anyway, he was convinced. He didn't know what she was thinking of wearing this classic otaku outfit every day. However, Lin Xian found a room in her house that was specially used to store figurines, and there were some yellow masterpieces in it. At that time, Lin Xian laughed at her for buying these. Although he didn't know those figurines, he also knew that so many must cost a lot of money. Anyway, Sakai Otoha was not short of money, and he didn't know how much money her parents left for her. "Huh? Are you leaving now?" "What else? Why stay here?" But. Don't say buts, go eat, take a shower and sleep now. I have an exam tomorrow, don't look for me if you have nothing to do." Lin Xian said and slipped away. "What are you doing?" Lin Xian saw Michiko and Reina sitting on the side watching Xiaobai eating. "What's going on? It's not like I haven't seen it before, what's wrong today?" "Xiaobai ate 3 bowls, Michiko said tremblingly, but its stomach didn't swell up, it's still like this. "Oh, it's normal to eat more now after not eating for so long." Lin Xian didn't care much when he heard this, and walked over to pick up Xiaobai. "If you eat more, you will be as fat as before, eat less." "Is it really okay?" Michiko looked at Xiaobai with some worry. "Don't worry." Lin Xian smiled and let Xiaobai go, watching it go upstairs, and then asked, "Have you eaten?" Right. I'll prepare it right away." Michiko hurried back to the kitchen, where she had been preparing dinner for Xiaobai. It was normal at first, but after Xiaobai finished the first portion, it started. It surrounded her and called her when she thought Xiaobai recognized her and wanted her to touch it. Xiaobai ran away again, and soon came over to call again. When she squatted down, it ran away again. It was really an annoying little goblin. Later, with Reina's reminder, she thought that Ziobai might be hungry, and then she made 3 portions in a row until Linzian came back. "Why did Unai-chan come back so early today?" Reina asked Linzian immediately after Michiko left. Facing Lingnei's questioning, Linzian said slowly, "I have an exam tomorrow, I will come back early to review, right?" Lingnei still didn't quite believe what Linzian said. You know, she had never seen Linzian reading a book. Teacher Gongzong Lui had mentioned his grades before, which were neither good nor bad. He also didn't listen to the class and skipped 1 week of class in a month. Who would believe me if I told her I had to review at this time? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 239. After checking again, Reina put down the pen in her hand. Looking at the answers written on the test paper, although these questions cannot be said to be simple, she dared to say that she knew all of them. As for whether the answers were correct or not, that was another matter. Looking at the sun outside the window, her thoughts were no longer on the test paper. I don't know how Unai-chan did in the test. Did she encounter any difficult questions? Oda Reina suddenly remembered something. When Linzian was tutoring her, he showed that he knew all the knowledge very well. No matter what questions she asked, he would teach her how to do it immediately after reading the questions, as if she didn't need to think. Logically speaking, he hasn't touched that knowledge for several years. Not to mention ordinary people, even the top students can't do this after leaving it for so long. At least it takes some time to recover. And according to teacher Miyazaki Ri, Unai-chan is just a student with average grades, but why is that? After thinking about it, she couldn't get an answer. In the end, Reina could only put this question aside for the time being, because the time was up and it was time to collect the papers. After the rustling sound of the test papers, the students in the class slowly walked out of the classroom, and Oda Reina also walked out with the crowd. She couldn't wait to go home, because Linzian promised her last night that he would take her to eat delicious food. But someone appeared and called her. Reina. Oda Reina had no choice but to stop where she was. She had already heard who the voice belonged to. Why are you walking so fast? Are you going to participate in club activities today? Yukino Kame trotted over and walked side by side with her. I want to go home early today, Unai-chan is waiting for me. After that incident, Reina didn't want to get too entangled with her. Then I'll take you home. Yukino Kame took a step forward and walked in front of Reina, reaching out to hold her hand. No need. Reina subconsciously dodged. She wanted to say something, but seeing Yukino Kame's embarrassment of being rejected, she couldn't say the words that were just on her lips. In the end, she just choked out a sentence, "Thank you," and turned away. Reina suddenly found that she felt a little sympathetic towards Yukino Kame. Her experience was similar to hers. They were both from single-parent families and had few friends. Moreover, she was much more lonely than she was. At least she had her mother and Unai-chan to accompany her, while her father was busy with work and could only be accompanied by a nanny and bodyguard. There was not even anyone to talk to. Oda Reina did not even have the courage to look back. She was afraid that she would not be able to help but agree to Yukino Kame again. She was relieved until she walked out of the junior high school. Looking around, Reina found Linzian, who was in a daze on a bench in the distance, and hurried over. After approaching, Reina found that Linzian's eyes were dull. I don't know what he was thinking, but he didn't notice me. After seeing this, Reina suddenly became playful and went around behind Linzian to scare him. But when she went around and aimed at Linzian's back and was about to pounce on him, a palpitation broke out from the inside out, a chill ran up from the tailbone, and goosebumps appeared on the pores of her body uncontrollably. Reyna stood still. She had never felt this way before, as if she was warning herself. "What are you doing?" Lin Ziyan turned around and looked at Reyna, who was standing still, and asked. "Ah," Reyna turned her head and looked around. There was no one. Although that feeling was only for a moment, but, Reyna touched the goosebumps on her hands that had not yet subsided. This was not an illusion. "What's wrong? Are you uncomfortable?" "No. Let's go home." Reyna pushed Lin Ziyan forward, as if she wanted to leave here as soon as possible. "Then let's go." Lin Ziyan stood up and inadvertently looked at Chihiro next to Reyna. The two walked on the road, talking and laughing, and Reyna had obviously forgotten what had just happened. Suddenly, a car stopped by the roadside, and Lin Ziyan also recognized that car. Wasn't it the car of Yukino Giame? Why did he stop him here again? Is Reyna worth money again? Or is she going to expose me again? Recently, Lin Ziyan felt a little bored. This time, he was a little excited to see her coming. I don't know what tricks she can play. Is your friend here to see you? Lin Ziyan didn't move forward, but teased Reyna. If you want to say what Reyna is most afraid of now, could it be that Lin Ziyan and Yukino Giame meet again? It was like that last time. What should she do if something happens again this time? Unai-chan, don't come over. I'll go and see. Reyna turned around and pressed Lin Ziyan's abdomen to stop him, and then immediately ran towards Yukino Giame's car. She had ridden in this car several times before, so she opened the door very skillfully and got in and said, "Why are you here?" "I don't have time to attend club activities today. I'm going home." "I saw you here and wanted to take you home." Yukino Giame leaned against Reyna inadvertently while speaking, and even her breathing became rapid. "Yes, that's the smell," Yukino Giame murmured. "What did you say?" Reyna didn't notice Yukino Giame's little movements at all. She was in a panic now, so how could she pay attention to this? "Nothing." Yukino Giame smiled. This smell made her feel very safe. It felt very good to be with Reyna, otherwise she wouldn't have tried every means to get Reyna away from Lin Ziyan and keep her by her side. But a person who made her very annoying appeared. "What's up? Did you guys have something to do? Otherwise, I'll go back first." Lin Ziyan stood by the car door and looked at the two of them and said. "No. Nothing." Ling Nai said hesitantly. She was afraid that Lin Ziyan still remembered the grudge that day. Although Lin Ziyan kept saying that he didn't care and even advised her, being wrongly accused of murder was not something that could be easily let go. Would she be hated if she still communicated with her? "It's okay, you guys chat, I'll go back first." Lin Ziyan really didn't care about Shueyejiame's previous troubles in his house. He might be a little unhappy at first, but her father knew how to behave. Turning around and solving a big problem for him, he didn't care anymore. And in his opinion, Shueyejiame was just a possessive kid. For her only friend, she wanted to control Ling Nai in her own hands, but her methods were not as mature as her father's, and were a little childish. In addition, he hoped that Shueyejiame could hold Ling Nai back, so that she wouldn't come to bother him every day when she was free. Moreover, having such a friend is also good for Reyna. At least she doesn't have to do anything herself, and under the halo of Yukino Yoshimi, no one dares to bully her openly. My Retirement Life in Neon. Author, Wu Nangkuang Song. Chapter 240. Then I'll leave first. Lin Ziyan just said hello and left first, leaving Lene with a helpless look. "Reyna, let me take you home." Yukino Yoshimi excitedly took Reyna's hand, and then said to Matsushita Haru, "Drive." Matsushita Haru immediately understood what Yukino Yoshimi meant, started the car and walked in the other direction. And Lene could only watch Lin Ziyan gradually disappear from sight. "Humph," Otorina snorted, not sure whether she was dissatisfied with Lin Ziyan or Yukino Yami. Of course, Lin Ziyan knew that Yukino Yoshimi had taken Reyna away. Anyway, it was just right for her to send her back. He still had some things to buy, and it was inconvenient for Reina to be around. "Master, that girl just now?" Kyungsun asked cautiously at the side. "Yes, it was that person at that time, but I did some tricks, and she no longer remembers some things." Lin Zion smiled and turned to look at Kyungsun, and added, "The same includes me." "What?" After a moment of silence, Lin Zion asked proactively, "Do you remember her father burning your body?" "I don't dare." "Kyungsun doesn't dare," Kyungsun quickly denied. Kyungsun was able to meet his master because of him. "If it was that kind of life, I would rather." "Come on," Lin Zion's lazy voice interrupted her, "it's not like I don't know how you feel in this state. Besides, if it weren't for him, you wouldn't have been trapped there for so long. It's not something you should bear." Lin Zion is still very satisfied with Kyungsun, who is obedient and easy to use, otherwise he would not have updated her many times and given her more powerful power. "It is certain that you have a grudge against him, and it is not superficial. I have not experienced what you have experienced, and I am not qualified to ask you to forgive him. But his identity is still useful to me. I will keep this account in mind first, and I will find a way to make it up to you." Kyungsun was rescued by his master. If there was no master, there would be no Kyungsun Shigeki. Now that he can be by his master's side, Kyungsun is very satisfied and doesn't dare to ask for anything more. Chihiro Shigeki was terrified. There was something wrong with Lin Zion's attitude. So good to her. Lin Zion didn't understand why Kyungsun was suddenly so excited. Didn't he say anything? Although he didn't know what she was thinking, Lin Zion did know what kind of person Kyungsun was. She didn't know who taught her the master-servant concept in her mind. It had already been around this time. Falling behind. "Forget it," Lin Zion waved his hand casually, "you like it, just tell me if you have any requirements." "Yes." Master Kyungsun replied solemnly. Lin Zion wandered home, looked at the car parked at the door, and murmured in a low voice, "She hasn't left yet, what is she going to do this time?" Matsushita Haru, who was waiting at the door, saw Lin Zion coming and walked towards him quickly. "Go and see what she is doing." Lin Zion winked at Kyungsun and walked over casually. "Hello, sir, I'm here to trouble you again." Matsushita Haru stopped Lin Zion to say hello, but this performance was too deliberate and a bit sorry for her price. "The visitor is a guest, and I welcome the guest, but it would not be good if the guest brings trouble to the host." Lin Zion also greeted her with a smile. After all, she and her boss still have some friendship, so there is no need to show off. "Miss, I have something to say to Miss Reina." Matsushita Haru knew that there was no point in pretending any longer, so he said directly. "What?" Lin Zion pretended to be confused. The smile on his face became even brighter. He picked up the bag in his hand and said, "Go in and eat some fruit." Haru Matsushita smiled bitterly, shook her head helplessly, and then stepped aside to get out of the way. "Haha. I won't go in, otherwise it will be difficult for you." Lin Zion walked to the door and turned around and handed the bag in his hand to Matsushita Haru, "You help me take it in." After that, he went to the backyard. "Sir, you." Haru Matsushita followed him into the backyard as if he was still worried. "How about it?" "I'm doing well in growing these vegetables." Lin Zion squatted down next to the vegetable field, stroking the tender green vegetable leaves, and did not forget to complain, "The vegetables here in Neon are too expensive, and they are too expensive. Not fresh." Matsushita Haru couldn't help but complain in his heart when he heard Lin Zion's words, "You rich people still say this, what about us? But Michiko usually takes care of this." "I'm too busy." Lin Zion stood up and added. "Too busy? If it weren't for Yukino Yoshimi's request, I would have believed it if I had investigated his daily schedule and habits." "Yes." Haru Matsushita laughed, not feeling anything about what Lin Zion said. "Go, I have something else to do, no need to waste time." Lin Zion waved her hand to let her out. Yes, Haru Matsushita knew that Lin Zion didn't want to wait anymore and hurried in. She doesn't look very smart. Lin Zion watched her disappear around the corner, turned to look to the side, and an inexplicable smile appeared on his face. You think so? She was asking about that man. The voice came from next to Lin Zion, and Kingsun's figure appeared. Oda didn't tell her. Well, Lin Zion knew what Kingsun was talking about. She was referring to Oda Michiko, because her name was Oda Reina and she was usually called little girl or her full name. This meant that Yukino Yami ran to ask Michiko about that matter. Isn't this hitting the muzzle of the gun? It was strange that Michiko could tell her. Just ask, does this matter have anything to do with me? Lin Zion smiled nonchalantly. They are leaving. Chihiro looked to the side, as if she could see through the wall. Then let's go back. Lin Zion waved his hand backwards. Yes. Chihiro's figure gradually became illusory until she disappeared. Lin Zion walked in after Yukino Jiame walked away. It's not easy to go home. Lin Zion sat on the ground and took off his shoes, and then someone bumped into him from behind. Why did you come back now, Ani-chan? Reina hugged Lin Zion's neck from behind. Isn't he back? Lin Zion laughed and changed the subject. Is your friend back? Reina let go of Lin Zion's neck, but put her head on his shoulder. Does Ani-chan like Xiaome? Why do you ask that? Lin Zion didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why did Reina have such an idea? Then why are you so nice to her, Ani-chan? If it was teacher Mayaso, you would have chased her away long ago, as well as Senior Hasakawa. That's different. Lin Zion didn't expect that his retreat would make Lingnei think of these things, so he had to explain. Hasakawa Ryo and Mayaso Ri are my friends, and I don't need to care about others when I date them. But this Yukino Kame is your friend, and I'm your brother, so she is both a guest and a junior, and my dealings with her will affect your relationship with her. What are you talking about, Ani-chan? I'm just saying that I'm doing this for your sake, not because I like her, do you understand?